Hello and welcome back to the Personal Trainer Portal podcast, episode 51. Today we're going to be talking about, do you feel like your personal trainer business could fall apart at any moment? But first, we're post episode 50 now. We're on the other end. We're closer now to episode 100 than we were to 0. Feels great, doesn't it, really?
So, just before I went really positive, you just threw that in sort of. Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're doing well now. No, I feel great. Don't know about you.
Well, I feel great. We're episode 51. I mean, who would have thought when we started this it would get to episode 51?
I wish we'd known that, eh?
And here we are, first, as of recording this, 2nd of March today. God, time flies when you're having fun.
If you're still here after episode 50 and you've got through that episode, well done.
I was going to say, if you've listened to all of that, there's you deserve a reward.
Yeah, are you? What reward are you thinking?
No, access to our 12-week course.
Access. Wow, that sounds good. What?
Yeah.
Like a discount or?
No.
You're just giving them free?
Full access if you can answer some tough questions.
So talking about tough questions, I get some prepared earlier because you never know when you might need a tough question.
Exactly.
So let's throw some tough questions at Lewis.
I don't know. Obviously, I haven't heard any of these questions yet.
And let's get his brain working. So I think we were just talking, weren't we? You were off camera or off podcast, and you were saying you're a little tired. So I think it's time we wake you up and let's stimulate that brain of yours.
Oh, go on to stimulate me, Pete. Go on.
Not too much, because I know your life is really stimulated. So let's dive into that on that note about stimulation. So I've got 10 stimulating questions for you. Hopefully that won't mean what happens when you get too heavily stimulated. If at any point you feel that stimulation's getting too much, Lewis, raise your hand, turn the camera off, or that also works. Should we have like a danger word?
Yes. Well, we can't really say it now. Everyone would know it.
Well, we should have done this off air.
Off air, but we can't now. It's just if it happens, it happens. It's nature.
Yeah. So let's dive into it. Are you ready to be stimulated? Are we going to rename the podcast Stimulation? I think that's
stimulation.
That's going to get people listening.
It is, isn't
surely.
It? Yeah.
Number one, you got your listening head on? What are 2 things you can never eat before breakfast? Breakfast. Did I say before?
Yes, you did.
Sorry, for breakfast.
Oh, 2 things you can eat for breakfast.
You can never eat for breakfast.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, we're going to have a limit on the time you answer these, just so we get through them.
When you say never eat, what do you mean? Like, because you can eat any of them, really, if you wanted to. I don't.
Look, this is the question.
Is it like a trick question?
They're quite tricky, these questions. Yeah. Stimulating is the word.
Give me a clue.
I mean, I'm trying to think.
It's to a good start, this, isn't it?
It's really, we're flying. Think outside of the box on this one. That's going to be my clue to everyone, by the way.
This is going to be
time limit here.
2 things you can never have for breakfast.
You can never eat for breakfast.
You can never eat for breakfast.
Should I put you out of your misery?
Yeah, put me out of misery.
The answer is lunch and dinner.
You know what it is? I've heard that one before.
Well, why didn't you say it then?
Oh, because I forgot. So they're like trick questions. You should have given me some context. I need to think outside the box, don't I?
Number 2.
Right.
What is always coming but never arrives? And this isn't you. After the stimulating question.
I thought you were leading off in the stimulation. So what is always coming but never arrives?
Never arrives. Keep it clean, Lewis.
What is always coming but never arrives? The future?
Nearly tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Well, yeah, I'm in ballpark. Yeah.
What gets wetter the more it dries? I never even, after all that chat of stimulation, I didn't even think about question number 2 and 3 could get a little bit
saucy,
messy.
What gets wetter before it dries?
The more it dries.
What gets wet the more it dries? Is it like a towel?
It is. Well done.
Is it a towel?
It's a towel, yeah. Number 4. What can be broken but never held?
What can be broken but never held? My heart.
No. I mean, if not to get gruesome, but if I killed you and ripped
Mm.
your heart out, I'd have it in my hand. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
What can be broken but never held? Glass.
No. A promise.
Good. Yeah, I thought of that. Wasn't thinking outside the box enough there.
So we're halfway. We're nearly halfway after this one. What word is spelled incorrectly in every single dictionary?
What word is spelled incorrectly in every single? Incorrectly.
Correct.
No, incorrectly.
Yeah, correct.
But is it incorrect or is it correct?
It's incorrect is correct.
You just said it was correct.
Yeah, incorrect is correct. We're not getting into this. We're done. I knew you'd go down that if you just piece of work. But anyway, number 6. What is it that lives if it is fed and dies if you give it a drink?
Say that again. What
lives if it is fed and dies if you give it a drink?
What lives if it and dies if you
give it a drink?
a drink? Lives if it's fed. A fish? The fishes drink because they're already in water anyway, aren't they?
Well, it must consume some hydration from some form.
Give me a clue. Any chance you can give me a clue?
Thing outside of the box.
Well, yeah, you can't just say that.
I'm trying to think of a clue that doesn't give it away. It keeps you warm.
What lives if you give it? What was it? What lives if you give some food, but dies if you
Give it a drink.
the sun?
I mean, I'm going to have to limit you here.
The sun.
Fire.
Oh, fire. All right. Okay.
What never asks a question but gets
Definitely not me.
answered all the time.
What never asks a question but gets answered all the
All
time?
the time. Yeah.
The answer machine on a phone.
Close your cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On your phone. Yeah. Did I get?
It's on your phone, isn't it? The cell phone. Answer machine on your phone. What word would you use to describe a man who does not have all his fingers on one hand?
This is a joke.
No.
What would you call a man who has all of it? Who has none of his fingers?
What word would you use to describe a man who does not have all his fingers on one hand?
Sorry, for people who can't see, I'm trying to really
This is just checking his hand.
not have all of his fingers on one hand. How would you describe a man? I don't know.
Normal. Because
Well,
half their fingers on
I was
hands.
literally right. I was doing this, and just honestly, hand on heart, I was just about to say, "Well, isn't that just a normal person?" But I didn't say.
Well, you did. You
was
didn't
gonna
say
do
it's no good saying that now, is it?
Well, I am saying it now because it was what I was going to say,
Well,
and I didn't.
supposedly. Anyway, let's move on. We've got 2 more to go. We're flying here. What goes up but never comes down?
Me when I'm stimulated by these questions.
Wow, is it that?
What comes up but never comes down?
Are you nature's version of Viagra?
I am. What comes up but never comes down? Well, it's got me this one.
Think you'll kick yourself on this one.
But never come.
Think outside the box.
Okay.
It's personal to everyone. I'm going to have to limit you here, this. We haven't even got into topic here. And
What?
You're taking too long on
I don't know.
your age.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. I don't know.
What can one catch that is not thrown?
What can one catch which is not thrown? One as in.
Yeah.
What can one catch which is not thrown? I'm getting mind blanks now.
Overstimulated.
I've overstimulated. I've been
Yeah.
up since 5 o'clock.
Do you want me to give the answer?
Go on then.
A cold. There we go. There's 10 tricky, stimulating questions. How many did you get right there? I think you got a lot less than that.
No, I think I got about 4. I should have
You got
got
like a half answer
Yeah.
on a couple. And then I'm disappointed about the fingers on.
Well, honestly, I was going to say normal as well.
It's no good now.
I know, but I thought that was just too simple.
Anyway, I mean, how do you think that went? Do you think that's a regular? What would you call
Every
it?
now and then.
A regular segment.
Regular
Podcast.
segment, yeah. A regular segment. But now we can segue onto the main part of the podcast. So for people who actually want some value, who actually have come here to learn something, we're going to be talking about, do you feel like your PT business could fall apart? Maybe that is a little bit dramatic, but if you are self-employed, you always have a chance of something going wrong or multiple things going wrong to the point where you might have to totally stop PTing. So what would you say one of the topics, Pete, of sort of could be a potential thing which might happen to someone for their PT business to fall?
Before I dive into that, first of all, obviously, I feel if you're coming to listen to this podcast and you're looking at that topic, you're probably quite anxious, aren't you? Because I know when we started, we'd have anxiety episodes, wouldn't we? Where we maybe got a few clients and then want a client or a couple of clients, whatever it is. Maybe have one client that does 3 or 4 week hours sessions and then they drop out and you're like, oh God, this business has gone backwards. I remember we used to chat in the staff room, didn't we, in the gym and be like, oh, I'm quiet today. I've got that anxiety. We used to, can you remember those anxiety episodes?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those, isn't it, where when you know you've got some consistent clients, you've built up to the point where you're earning half decent money, you've got a few clients, you're then worried about losing them. So it's like you're worried about picking up more clients if obviously you're not fully booked, but you're also worried about losing the current clients you've got. So you've got to get to a point where you're delivering a valuable service. So you know that you can not get to the point where you're going to lose them, but it's inevitable you will lose some at some point. But I do remember when we would sit in the staff room sometimes and speak to some of our clients and they'd hinted, there's nothing worse as, do you know, when they hint that
Yeah.
they might be leaving because they've, they're moving, they've got a different job, whatever, they're going to have kids, whatever it may be. They're hinting that they might leave, and if they're on 2 or 3 sessions per week, that's going to be quite a big hit. Can you remember that happening?
Yeah, the worst is when they drop it to you in the middle of a session.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're trying to be watching their reps and their exercise, and then you're thinking just of impending doom of your business failing.
It's like naturally we jump to conclusions, don't we?
Exactly. So it's one of them, you hear that, and obviously you probably overreact. If you're starting out, I think as well, you don't have that experience of turnover of staff, not staff, sorry, of clients. So you just panic, don't you? Think, "Oh, well, this isn't the plan. My plan is to keep my clients and get more, not to lose some along the way." So you sat there and you think, oh, great, Armageddon, I'm going to lose all my clients. As soon as one starts to go, more might follow. And where am I going to get the new clients to pick up those hours that they won't be PTing with? And it just sets those alarm bells off in your head, and you're probably overreacting as well. But yeah, you do sort of panic, don't you?
Scenario when I had a client who was going to be leaving, and I wasn't in the gym training them. I have had that before, like you just said, but this person, I was in Ibiza. So I remember I was with my friends in Ibiza, and we were at like a Ushuaia, which for people who don't know, it's like a hotel club. So it's a one you go through the day. So I was there maybe 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I looked at my phone and I had a message of one of my clients who I trained for years, and he did 2 sessions a week. Sometimes he did 3, majority 2. And he just sent me a message because I think I'd sent him a message before I went out about booking him in for the next day. The next week when I was back. And he sent me a message back when I was out there with my friends, probably a little bit pissed. And I was like, he said, oh, sorry for the late reply. Hope you're having a good holiday. But just to let you know, I'm not going to be continual PT because of this, that, and the other. I can't even remember exactly. I think it was just finances. And even though it shouldn't have bothered me because it wasn't at the point where I was desperate for clients, I think I remember spending a good few hours almost feeling down about it, as in feeling down that he was leaving. But then you jump to conclusions, like we just said. And I was thinking, oh, if he's leaving, that means I'm going to be a couple of £100 less off a month. What if I can't pick up that client? And then what if this person and this person leaves and then I'm knackered? Should I actually be on holiday right now? You jump to all these conclusions just because one client leaves. But I do remember that one quite vividly, actually.
I think as well, because personal training, they lose in the name, it's a personal service you're offering. And especially when you start out, you almost take it personally, don't you?
Exactly.
Someone's leaving. It could be finances, and And that's, a very valuable reason for someone to go. But then you think, well, is that because the service I'm giving them is not good enough and they can't overlook the fact that finances have taken a hit for whatever reason they have in their personal life? But do they not see the value of me? And that starts to play in your head, and before you know it, it's escalated, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And you're
But
down.
there are a few things which you can do. For example, to start off, the first thing you need to think about is, do you have your business set up for success? And almost getting the foundational principles in place first. Would you agree?
Exactly. If you haven't got those foundations, the foundations can quite often get overlooked, can't they? Sort of shiny objects of finance and packaging, creating clients or getting clients, whatever you want to call it. But the foundations, if you don't have them in place, it's like with your house.
Exactly.
You wouldn't just neglect the foundations and just build a house, because that storm comes along or any natural disaster and it's just going to fall down, isn't it? But if you've got the foundations locked in, you can build upon that, and then your business should stand up to that. And that's when we talk about foundations, that's from, if we go right to the basics, to the start, the gym that you're picking to work from, is that set up so that it allows you to grow? So not to plug it again, but we always end up plugging, don't we, Lewis? It's a favorite thing to do on this podcast. But on our course that we're doing, where we cover some of the foundations of PT, is your a lesson that I cover is just about picking the gym you're going into. And are you picking yourself a gym that will allow for you to prosper as you get into the business, as years pass by? If you're going into a gym that doesn't really have a lot of membership, and the rent is high, and they're not really giving you any sort of deal where you can maybe pay a lower rent until you build up your clientele, or you're straddled with a high rental cost straight away, you're up against it from the word go. And if you're up against it from the word go, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, because you're new to the industry potentially. Where are these clients coming from? It's probably dawning on you that getting clients when you start out is pretty hard. And we've covered on other podcasts, when you finish PT school, you're promised 50K, but they don't really go into context or detail of how you get those customers. And I think you come into it, and we both were guilty of this, where we're a bit like, they're just going to turn up, like they'll be knocking on the door for PT, these
Exactly.
clients.
And I think
So
as well,
it's
if you don't
scary.
have the foundation set up in place, how do you expect to go out and get loads of clients if you don't have the foundational
Yeah.
principles?
Yeah.
And when we say foundations, you might be listening to this thinking, well, what are the foundations? Well, it's things like Pete just said there. Are you in the correct gym for your goals? Do you want to be in a public gym where you don't pay rent, you just do hours? Or do you want to be in a public gym where you do pay rent, so you save 12 to 15 hours per week? Making sure all these things you've thought about before you start taking on clients. The first thing you should do, getting the foundational principles in place so you know what your goals are, you've set your goals, you know the more nuanced details, such as what type of gym you want to be in, how you are actually going to run your business. So that, I'd say that's the first thing you need to think about for making sure your business doesn't fall apart.
Yeah. So you've touched on your goal setting, your planning out your business. There's picking the facility. There's thinking about your finances. All of these things, your social media, how you represent yourself, how do people see you when you're in the gym? If they follow you on social media, you putting stuff on there that maybe doesn't show you in the best light. If you're turning to the gym late or scruff, does that then show what you're like? That feeds into reputation and things like that. So getting all of those things locked in early doors will help you then progress your business and grow from there.
Exactly. And then once you have the foundations in place, that's when you can think about, well, do you know how to consistently create clients on the gym floor? Because you might have all the foundational principles in place. But if you have, just like myself, if you have clients leave, which will inevitably happen, do you have a system in place to know how to speak to new people, bring them into your world, provide value, and turn them into a paying client? Because if you don't have that, then you are more at risk of your business falling apart, essentially. I know it sounds dramatic, but it's true. And I learned the hard way as well. I lost a few clients and then I didn't really know how to pick up clients effectively. I'd post loads on social media. I'd go around trying to speak to people on the gym floor, but without knowing what I should be saying. So I ended up trying to sell too soon. So it meant that I came across as too pushy, too salesy. People didn't really want to speak to me as much. So you need to know exactly how to pick up clients on the gym floor by using specific strategies and techniques, which we talk about loads on this podcast. And we actually do go massively more in depth within our 12-week PT business transformation course, where we actually tell you and give you the scripts and the templates to be able to consistently pick up those clients as well. So once you've got the foundations in place, you then need to know how to consistently create clients on the gym floor. So you know that whenever you need or want a client, you can get one.
Yeah, and we've touched on this before, the conveyor belt. We've discussed it and described it as having that first conversation, not being pushy or hard selling, and then taking that person from the first stage of the conveyor belt and adding value to them. If you're unsure what value is, go back a few podcasts and find the one about giving value, whether it's to gym floor members or to PT clients already. But you need to nurture them. You're building that relationship, that know, like, and trust along the conveyor belt. So at no point you'll come across like a car salesman just going straight for the win. Straight in. Hi, my name is Lewis. My name's Pete. Do you want a PT? That will not work. You'd be very lucky for that to work. So you've got to see it as a long game. But the more conversations, the more people you actually physically talk to, it's not just about posting on social media and expecting. Instagram isn't going to fill your diary with clients. Talking, having real conversations, building that know, like, and trust, that is what's going to fill your diary.
Exactly. And the next stage is once you have the foundation set in place, you know how to pick up clients. You then need to know how to package your service for maximum value for the client and earnings per hour. So what I mean by that is, do you sell your time directly to clients? Do you charge in blocks of 5, blocks of 10s, or direct debits? Do you know exactly how you're going to get your client from where they currently are to when you first speak to you in a consultation on the gym floor, then consultation? Do you know how and what you're going to offer them to get them to their goal? Because if you don't know that, you're going to find it harder to sell. If you package your service, you can sell an end result. You might have someone come to you and say, I want to lose 10 kg in, 10 weeks, and I want to tone up a little bit. Well, you can say, well, that's great. I've just been working with someone who's had the exact same goal. This is the results we've got. This is how we're going to do it. And this is the exact steps I want you to follow. So in 10 weeks, you will look like this. This is the price for that. And I'm going to give you maximum value. And this is essentially how we're going to get you there. As opposed to someone coming in a consultation and saying, I want to lose 10 kg, I want to tone up, blah, blah, blah. And I understand the scenario. I said 10 kg in 10 weeks is a lot. That was just an example. 10 pounds in 10 weeks. If you just said, oh, I do blocks of 5, it's £25 per hour. And then that's it. People are less inclined to want to sign up because they can't visualize exactly what they're going to achieve. And they don't really know exactly how they're going to get there. But if you can provide examples of other clients you work with who've got the same problems as them, you've shown them exactly how you got them there, and then you're selling that end result, people are going to sign up with you. And you can charge a lot more for it because you're charging for an end result and not just simply blocks of time.
Yeah, I think going back to your example of just saying, well, 1 hour is 25 quid. Well, what's the benefit of that to me? How will that help me? How's that tailored for me? And what
Exactly, because every other PT is probably charging the exact same and doing these.
it just looks like a menu. When you go to let's say a cafe that just like a Greasy Spoon and they've just got a list of meals, breakfasts. Whereas if you go to a nicer restaurant, they've got the breakfast, but then they'll describe exactly what's in it. That's more appealing for you, isn't it? When you see, oh, exactly how your breakfast is going to be certain bacon, there's going to be eggs poached in a certain way. It just feeds into your appetite and what you're looking for. And the same with PT. If you're just staying, it's 25 hours for 1 hour session. That doesn't
Right,
sort of £5, sorry, that doesn't give you like the plan, the action plan, the information that the client needs to know how that's going to benefit and where that's going to take them. And if you can relate that to another client that you've helped and how that helped them, that'll sell it as well.
Exactly. So once you have the foundation set up, once you know how to consistently create clients and package your service, I'd say the final piece of the puzzle, one thing which I wasn't really very good at, especially for the first few years, was knowing how to handle your finances. So we speak about this a little bit within our course. It's not a massive thing, but you should know, especially if you are self-employed. You need to know exactly what your income is, what your outgoings are, and exactly where you're spending your money and where your money's coming from. If you, for example, have everyone pay into a personal account and you run all of your other day-to-day and week-to-week outgoings and incomings through there, things will get mixed up. I know for a fact mine did as well. So again, we're obviously not giving financial advice here, but I'm just saying in my personal experience, having a business account was massively helpful for me, even though I wasn't set up as a limited company. I was just a sole trader, but setting up my own business account where every one of my clients paid into, and then I would just pay myself at the end of the month. I knew everything was separated. I knew exactly what my numbers were. I knew who was paying what and when. And I didn't have all my normal Netflix subscription or my haircut coming out of the same account. I knew everything was separated. So I think setting your finances up as well is another massive thing which people don't think about, especially when they're self-employed.
Yeah, and it's that argument, isn't it, about when you're personal training, you're obviously generally a sole trader when you start out, and there's no stipulation where you have to have a business account when
Yeah.
you start out. You can have a personal account, and that's fine. But like you're saying, Lewis, that when it comes to the end of the year and you have to do your tax returning and show costs and income, it's going to be a lot easier if that's all in one place and separate from your personal side. So having a business account can be a beneficial thing. It's not the only way of doing it, but if you want everything in one place, it's going to make that a lot easier, isn't it?
Exactly. And I would say that was massive for me. I used my personal account for the first 4 or 5 years of PTing, and now I've been using a separate business account for the last few years. I can't believe that I didn't do it sooner. Like, I just can't imagine it any different now. I can't imagine everything coming out of my personal account. It'd just be an absolute nightmare. Like we said before, if you want to know thorough, in-depth, more information about this, you can go to the link in the description of the podcast where we've got our hour-long training, completely free training, the PT Masterclass, where I delve into a little bit more topics about this, about creating clients, about packaging your service, about reducing the stress of starting out in the industry, because we know exactly what it feels like when we first started out. That is completely free. Or if you want to go to the premium version, you can then book a call with us to talk about the 12-week course, PT course as well. Hit the link in the description and give us a rating. Give us a 5-star rating or a 4-star, whatever you feel like the podcast deserves. Thank you very much for listening. Episode 51.
Thanks, guys.